oriented carries, but for the meantime, focusing on providing some sort of value that isn't just damage and making sure that your solo lanes are set up for success seems to be the way to go in this new LCK summer season.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't really see too many different bans here in game number 3. Just Syndra Zyra against Crown Core JJ. Well, will they follow it up here with their third ban? They're thinking a bit more.
Could be the Karma if they really didn't like it, and yep, that's what it's going to be. Let's make sure that Core JJ, let's make sure that Core JJ doesn't have an easy time. But now tempting Africa, are they going to first pick Lee Sin? It definitely have to. You do not want to give up this champion right now, and most likely we have to see maybe a Gragas being taken away from Samsung here. You don't want to have a denial pick being taken. They could have risked it and say Marin. We don't think you're going to lock it in, so most likely just going to be Ashe and maybe Galio. Oh, no, it is going to be the Gragas. Called it again, man.
There you go. I was thinking about other stuff like Galio or the Thresh.
Or food.
Food. Yeah, I was actually thinking about food. I'm getting a little bit hungry. Me and you ate at the same time. We'll have that food in the break. Don't worry. Don't worry, fans out there. We'll be okay. So what is going to be the follow-up here from Africa? They do have that Galio open. That's a very easy pick for them. Kuro is going to get 3 chances.
It's either the Galio here for sure, and it might be a support pick taken away. You could see the Thresh as it is an overlapping pick, or they could just play it safe, lock in their own AD carry, either the Caitlyn or the Varus for themselves to make sure that the picks are matching what Samsung have selected in terms of roles.
So I'm just going to let that sit and see if what you said was correct.
Yes, I mean, oh.
Okay.
No, it was incorrect, but it really just shows what Africa's game plan is. They really just say, we want to mimic what happened game 1. Winning top lane, winning jungle and winning mid lane. Use that pressure, transition into objectives, get that Herald, secure mid lane so that whatever wave clear is selected doesn't matter. And already you have to imagine that Ambition will be taking this Gragas and that Juve will be locking something else in, and it's going to be the cannon into the Renekton, and let's hope for the love of all that is holy that this is not another AP cannon, that somebody just decides to go with the build that is actually good.
Thankfully, it's Juve on it. I have a lot of faith in Juve. He's really shown up and shored up his top lane play. He's widened his champion pool. I cannot wait to see his cannon.
Wait a minute, this could be interesting here. Samsung is targeting AD carries without Ashe, which is Kramer's most played pick, and Caitlyn being taken away. If they decide to ban Varus here, what's Kramer going to lock in? We haven't really seen too many AD carries beside that. We have seen some attempts at Jhin, which is not in the meta by any means, but it could force him in a position that he wouldn't be very comfortable with, especially with this team composition.
They're really thinking about this last ban. You could be right. No, it's going to be the Thresh. Maybe they're scared about Kalista Thresh. I'm not really sure if Kramer Tushin can play it into the bot lane.
It wouldn't really fit the idea from the Freak so far to go with that, as they would just have full-on early game, and it would be difficult to pinpoint where they want to be fighting. And we can expect the Orianna being locked away from a ban from the Africa Freaks, just saying, you know what, go ahead and have your Victor again, but no Orianna, just full-on focus in the bottom lane. Interesting.
So they do open up that pick here for Crown, if they do want to pick it up right away.
It'll have to be saved for the last pick. It would be pretty ballsy to take away the mid lane pick right away. So they really just want the counter pick for the bottom lane for Core JJ. I guess they already know what's happening to the mid lane, and we'll get another rematch of Victor into Galio. So if you're ever wondering how this matchup goes, if you're a Galio or a Victor player, then take a look at this series, watch the replay, and you'll see that it's just basically farming 24/7. And you're right,
What did I say, man?
It's sticking to you. It's sticking to you.
I've spent a lot of time with Crumbs recently. You know, we're trying to get friendly here to make this duo work, and well, seems like I got some of that profit power too. But the only thing is that the Thresh is banned, so they decide to go with the Braum instead.
Well, this does offer a huge amount of kill pressure for any overstep. So I'm looking at Ambition here, making sure that he doesn't get caught out. And a really strong level 1, as Braum's level 1 is insane when you consider that Kalista can chase you down with her little hops from every auto attack proc that's done. So it can get really feisty early on with this crazy early game. So Africa looking to go for a repeat of that perfect game, whereas Samsung says, if we hit late game, we'll definitely crush you in a team fight.
Yeah. And you can see, you were talking about that counter pick in the bot lane. Lulu's picked up. Definitely going to offer a lot of survivability. will be able to poke down Braum a little bit as well and just handle the Callista. You know, you can polymorph it if it gets too out of control. You can get in there, exhaust, and really just shut it down if need be.
But there's just so much zone for Callista to do anything when the team fight happens. There's volley, Glitterlands, literally Victor and everything he has to offer, Gragas, then Kennen. And so Africa really has a timer on this matchup. Otherwise, they're going to find themselves unable to really bring anything to the table when it comes down to a 5-on-5. So lots of attention into the top side. If they're able to put Kennen down early on in this matchup, then Marin can take over the game and use that advantage to get that Herald and snowball very quickly.
Well, doesn't really need to be said, but I'll say it anyway. This is going to be a very exciting game, especially with the composition here from Africa. They have so much engage. You can see Callista throwing in the Braum, the Galio, even the Renekton. And from the other side, lots of ways to disengage. So Samsung, it's kind of their composition, you know, play for that late game, sit back, defend, farm for that late game. They are going to be on the red side this time. So we won't see that incredible, you know, red buff warning. But either way, guys, we are all ready to start up game number 3. Go out there, tell your friends that this is going to be a pretty sick game. Let's jump into it right now. There you have it.
The ever-inspiring chance of teams. If I had chance like that when I get up in the morning, man, my productivity would go through the roof.
You have a bunch of fangirls waiting outside your window screaming. I don't know.
Is that the dream?
I don't think that's the dream.
If they cheered for me to just go to the gym and get my job done, then yeah, I would.
And then they leave and they don't harass you as you leave your apartment.
I would really love that.
That doesn't sound all too
bad. I'm on the 3rd floor though, so I can't really.
Hey, they're pretty loud. I'm sure you can hear them if you keep your window open.
Oh, I don't open my window, man. It's bug season out there. My blood's too sweet, and the mosquitoes find it too succulent.
Oh yeah, man. You're not the only one. I bought myself a dehumidifier, but also this big fan, so that I don't have to open anything in my room. No windows are open during the summer.
Oh, I do not want to go in that room and see how musky it is.
No, it's nice. You open the windows every once in a while.
You have
course.
Stockholm Syndrome to your own house.
It's very bugless. That's what I like about my room. Nice big leash here for Spirit, as you oftentimes do see for the Lee Sin on the Raptors.
Ambition will be starting on the blue side this time around, getting a leash from Core JJ. An atypical start, as you normally would have expected him to start on the Raptor camp, as Gragas AoE is pretty easy to clear out little minions early on, but starting blue does increase his clear, gets a little bit of that extra AP, that mana that is so good for him to spam, keeping his HP up. This means that the junglers will finish in the top side of the map, where the attention has been previously in the first 2 games, and so now that the map hasn't been split, we can expect a little bit more action and things getting chaotic into the top side when you're dealing with 2 laners that can set themselves up for kills very easily in Kennen and Renekton.
Yeah. It seems like the idea for Ambition, at least, but we do see Spirit coming down here to the doubles, going to clean that up. We'll see if he goes ahead and...
I think he'll recall after this, most likely. It's just the standard route for him to go for. Otherwise, it's a pretty big waste of time to just route back from doubles up to the blue side of the map and go with probably a longsword and maybe a control ward after this. I think he has enough gold to do so. Yep, there it is.
There you go. This is definitely going to make the timing a little bit different compared to as if he went Raptors red, blue, and tried to go top. So might throw him off here. Ambition is going to be in position to actually take the Scuttle Crab and scout this out.
Exactly. The trade-off is he does get that Scuttle Crab for Cuvée. So the only way that he can really get ganked by now with the ramp ward in the red side is going to be through the Blast Cone from Spirit. So it's a bit of an ambitious gank right now, considering with the big wave that Cuvée has built up. So things are looking good for Samsung in pressuring this top side of the map and enabling this Kennen to bully Marin early on and don't let the Crocodile get out of control like he did in Game 1.
Finally, Spirit's going to come over to this blue buff, and we do see Cuvée. I See Marin on this cannon so many times. But Kive is going to come on down here, get the ward, spots out Spirit. Will ping that, takes away the blast cone. And a nice bit of information against Spirit here in the jungle. He's cleared out everything. It's just the full clear there from Spirit on this Lee Sin.
And he's bought himself some time. The vision has allowed him to get past this, but Spirit says, no, I'm going to abuse the vision and maybe look to go around. He's looking for mid lane, though. Can they get a cleanse at least?
Looks like they will at least get the cleanse. They do land the Q, but it would have been a little bit risky.
Yeah, no need for him to take this unnecessary damage early on, as that would open up Ambition to really go into the jungle and harass him and maybe even lose that camp. But lots of pressure into the bottom side from Samsung's bottom lane here. Ashe and Lulu being quite capable of bullying out the shorter range Braum and can. Oh, you just hate to see that. You just hate to see that.
That's just disgusting.
It's worth so much. It's worth 3. It's actually worth losing 2 minions as long as you can secure that cannon.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times that has to be said, that cannon minions are the most important minions by a factor of 3. That's a lot, man.
Yeah. Pretty unfortunate. Marin, he's, you can see he's definitely struggling here. Just, that's the really tilting thing for me when you're in a really hard lane and you finally get an opportunity as the lane is pushing to get one of these cannon minions, and then you miss it because you know it's your own fault. And then you have your recall delayed. Definitely a very unfun matchup in lane for Marin right now.
And even worse is that the lane is frozen. He's going to try to unfreeze this, but his HP is not high enough, and he doesn't have vision of the try, so he has to consider the possibility of Ambition being there if he were to try to break the freeze. So Cube will just be getting a little bit of harass here, but he has to recall really far back, and now the CS lead is starting to pile up for Cube, and not the position you want to be in as a Renekton early in the game.
Yeah, you can see that Cube.
Okay.
Oh, he's stuck in there. Kuro's going to face check this. Doesn't look like anything will come of it, but one thing I wanted to point out as well is that Cube started the Doran shield. We don't see the cull on the cannon as we have seen many times in lanes like this, and he wants to have that survivability. He wants to make sure he shuts down the Renekton hardcore with that Doran shield.
It's really important for him to have regen in this matchup, because as Ken, you want to be using your auto attacks to harass, and Renekton has a lot of ways to gap close and actually trade back for you. So if he were to have gone with, say, a D-Blade or D-Shield or maybe even a Colt to start with, if he were to take a poor trade, he'd basically give the lane up right away. So by having the Colt, he can ensure that the lead that he has and starts building is a little bit safer than if he were to go with a much more offensive build.
Yeah. Exactly. We covered it, Crumbs. We did it.
Evidently. Accurately.
Figured it out.
Nailed it.
Marin seems to be having a little bit more luck in the top lane as he has hit level 6. He has a lot more pressure. Spirit's coming up here, is spotted on the ward. Immediately, Kive will back off.
Just farming happily for all these lanes. Of course, when level 6s are hit all around, then things might get a little bit spicier, but so far, not a whole lot besides the CS lead in the top lane. TP does get burned from Cube, and if he stays up here, it might prompt Marin to burn his own as well. But now that Spirit is level 6, might be thinking about ganking Crown. Unfortunately, his cleanse is right back up.
Yeah, not the longest cooldown on that one. I think it's just about to get that cooldown back. So just in time, right after he gets that blue buff, should be pretty safe to just continue farming as is.
And good news is that Cube is going to be going for that Blade of the Ruin King Ninja Tabi's build. So good stuff from him.
Showing Marin how it's done.
So, I mean, we thought the entire world was showing him how it's done, but maybe he's looking at some wonky build in China for it. And Spirit sneaking around with the control ward. Oh, this could be it. Cleanse at least has to get popped.
Yeah, there's the cleanse. Can Spirit land this? Ambition is going to be in position to help out his mid laner. And once again, they do get that cleanse, though. So will open up some opportunities, perhaps, in the future.
It's an unfortunate timing, actually, because I think he could have been able to maybe even burn a flash had he not had to ward hop over the control ward to try to close the gap. But the pressure and chunk onto the mid lane that unfortunately also hit Ambition will mean that they can just transition to a red buff steal. So an advantage does come out of it, and now Cuvée is not tanky enough to survive this by any means. So Marin will push this wave, and if they can deny this cannon minion and really fat wave, this could be disaster in the top lane. Cuvée has to be careful. Oh, this is really hard gank to bot considering how easy these champions can execute.
There it is, the double flash on in. There's the slicing Maelstrom. Trying to trade a kill here. Cuvée will flash away. Marin should be able to finish this off, but Cuvé's on the run. Doesn't have his cooldowns, and that is going to be Cuvée escaping from the double flash gank of Marin and Spirit. Does not pay off.
And this guy's Spidey sense is off the charts. Reads the play right away and retreats, so he puts himself in a position where Spirit has to rush the gank. The wave just wasn't quite there and is able to escape and doesn't give up the kill. And while the CS is lost, the fact that he doesn't die means that it's really not all that bad, as he still has that CS advantage. And man, that is really well played by Cuvée.
Yeah, you were talking about the Spidey senses. I was looking at Marin's CSing. Sometimes when you're trying to push in a wave, it
gets obvious.
You're like trying to push so hard that you miss a couple, and then you're sitting there watching this guy miss all the CS when he normally doesn't. And you're like, okay, this is weird. And they're trying to set up something.
Exactly, and he has to think about as well as, okay, I don't have teleport. What's the worst thing that could happen? If I were an opposing jungler, where would I do the most damage? And then if you consider, if I die right now, this could be disaster, then you start adding all those things together, how Marin's last hitting, what he could be losing if he potentially dies, where the junglers have been, right? He saw him in the mid lane, he rotated topside, he could be lingering. Ambition hasn't spotted him. Put those all together, makes the right conclusion, and maintains dominance in this lane.
Yeah, definitely a huge play to bring attention to. Nice job by Cuvée. He has been popping off in a lot of different ways in this entire series. As I said before, he was one of the players for Samsung that he would kind of just be the stable tank in spring, back when it was like Maokai versus Nautilus all the time. But now he's really doing well for himself.
And speaking of popping off, the amount of vision that Samsung have around mid lane, those double control wards, and now Africa have to group up to try to clear out. I like that they're grouping for it. So immediately as the wards get laid down, they say, no, we cannot allow this. We need to have some sort of control in mid lane, because if they can keep Crown at a distance, that opens up Kuro to move around the map, look for more heroic entrances anywhere, and those make the difference because they offer dive plays, they offer defensive capabilities, and just the fastest semi-global presence in the map right now.
Trying to set up something here onto Ambition. There's the kick, and waiting for the flash, but Wild Growth will save him for now. The cask will push the rest of Africa away, and no kills come out of that
was
engage.
One fancy engage, but the chunk on Ambition means that Spirit can now choose to go for an Ocean Dragon, and there's not going to be much counterplay. However, Ambition is fancying it, and there is TP available on Cuvée, but they will secure it till this end.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of meh for Africa. You know, they've got Lee Sin, they've got Marin up top. Neither of these guys have mana. It's kind of just taking the dragon because you can, an opportunistic objective.
Yeah, it's not the craziest dragon, but it does help because at least they're still laning, so there is more value in it than it being past the stage of turrets being taken. But yeah, I think it'll just mostly just benefit Galio, who already has very low mana cost, so it'll probably help out in maybe some extended fights in the later stages in the game. But for now, as you say, let's take it and hope that the roulette is beneficial and we finally get our first Infernal.
Oh, here we go, the flash on in. Tushin, they actually do miss that. They're trying to continue engaging, though. Here comes Spirit, trying to follow up. There's no damage, though, on any of those members.
Really surprising how the ultimate miss on that one. That actually would have definitely been a kill going Africa's way.
Yeah.
First brick, considering that they have a Lee Sin with red buff, might have also, or first blood, might have also meant first brick. So, bit of a misplay there. They go for the engage because they burned the Wild Growth to try to save Ambition before. So they had an ultimate advantage and there was the time to go for it.
Oh, here we go. They're trying to make something happen here on Cuvée. He doesn't have his flash, but we do see that Kuro is spotted on a ward, and Cuvée will lightning rush to safety.
Still trying to put attention topside, so they have to debate where they want to commit for both these teams. There's no flash on Kalista bottom and no flash on Ruler as well. And with the teleports available from both these teams, you have to imagine that bottom lane is going to be the focus, although Spirit once again fancying topside, and there is no vision from Cuvée. Is he going to try to ward hop over the wall to try to go for this, or secure the red? Red just spawned, so great buff control there from Spirit.
Yeah, they definitely need some more vision in this deep red side jungle too. You can see that coming in is Marin, puts one onto the doubles. You can see another ward here at the red buff. So lots of nice control, taking away that red.
And just on top of it, only one red buff has gone to Ambition so far. Their own red buff is up. So keeping the pressure up and the vision means that the plays that Ambition can make aren't really there, but as long as the gold lead isn't suffering and kills aren't going Africa's way, Samsung has to be happy with this. If they scale and get to a 5-on-5, I think they'd feel happy with the composition, as it's a style that they basically had all of last year, right up until playoffs in the World, where they really ramped up and became a team really capable of dismantling teams early on.
Yeah. Even though we haven't had a kill just yet, and I know you guys are in the chat spamming Resident Sleeper and stuff like that, there has still been a lot of action all over the map. You know, Spirit doing a lot. They try to set up kills. It's just the tension is building for this first blood, and that's really when we're going to see which team is going to get ahead. You can see something brewing down here in bot. Nice flash there onto Ambition. They're going really aggressive. In he jumps, and two members are going to be knocked up. CoreJJ forced the flash away. First blood goes over to Kuro. This is going to be a second kill going over to Kramer as CoreJJ gets a little bit too close to that Kalista.
Great read from Spirit, waiting in the brush for Ambition. You know the plays are going to be coming bot side 24/7. That's what these compositions can do, and so he punishes Ambition, face checking a brush. He did it game 2, does it again in game 3, and this time the punishment's going to be bigger than before. This could result in the first brick going Africa's way if Spirit is to assist, but are they going to be able to get it on that first push? I think they should be. Yeah. They're going to be able to secure it by himself. We'll take another look at the replay there. He was basing, but just no chance. And the kick flash, while looks ambitious, because Gragas doesn't have flash, as long as he stays blocking the body slam, there is no chance of him escaping. And it's just an easy 1-2 as Lulu also gets caught without sums.
It's so funny to see Kuro's just participation in that fight. All he does is heroic entrance and pick up first blood and then walks away.
All me,
He's like,
baby.
yeah, I'm doing huge amounts for my team. I push the mid lane and then I walk on in, get the heroic entrance, and that's about it.
It's like the last guy in the group project. He wrote the title. He chose the colors, so he gets all the credit. My God, it looks so beautiful.
Yeah. Puts his own name bigger than the rest.
He's the only
group project leader.
Only guy that knows calligraphy, so he just looks fancier than everyone else.
I mean, it looks very cool, but
you know that was the punishment I had. In my school, you get punished by having to do calligraphy.
That's not bad. It's pretty cool.
You say so now.
If you learn how to do calligraphy, that's a cool, almost useless talent to have.
It's like you have to write 100 lines that say, I will not call my friends' names again and stuff like that.
Well, we are going to see Africa begin onto this Rift Herald, and I said it before, whoever gets that first blood is really going to pop off. Well, they got 2 kills with the first blood and the first turret, and now they're going for the Rift Herald. So Africa looking strong again.
This Herald's going to be used definitely onto the mid lane because they want to crack that turret that Crown has been defending just so dearly with his life so far, staying pretty much without roaming it. It isn't an HP that if they can group up somebody else to hit that tower, then it'll go down a Herald, but the teleport comes out to try to secure this objective. Is he going to cancel that? Nope. He's okay with it. He knows he can stay in lane forever and use heroic entrance to assist anywhere else he has to go.
Yeah. So that is brought onto Spirit here. Looking for a kill onto Cuvée. I always feel like if you can get a kill into the Rift Herald, that makes it just so much stronger.
Yeah, but the thing is that for the top lane turret, I really feel like it's a waste versus the matchup that you have. One turret, as long as it's the mid lane versus heavy wave clear, is always just going to be with so much value, but the commitment to the top side means that Samsung can answer with an attempt onto the Baron. Marin does have teleport, and Spirit is collapsing, so Samsung not feeling too comfortable with this. Remember that they're not with the early game composition, so any fight that would happen right now would most likely go Africa's way, as they have already completed not just the Blade of the Rune King on Kalista, the Abyssal Scepter onto Galio, but the Black Cleaver onto Redneck, and so they back away wisely and secure the Infernal for themselves. That's 2 dragons going their way, and
Yeah, very, very unfortunate for Samsung. You were talking about that late game composition. Infernal Drake would have helped them out immensely. For Victor, for Ash, even for Cuvée in the trades when he is split pushing, would have been very nice, but not quite able to pick that up.
Yeah, and they just have to respect the selected for themselves here. They're in a position where just farm, and wait until a stage where all you have to do is group and team fight as a 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 with the top laners MIA, and that will be the fight that they're looking for, because at least they have a front line that can peel for the carries and allow them to deal the damage that they're designed to do. Rotation topside here from the duo lane, and Ash still in the bottom lane, so Africa will get the advantage into this top lane without being spotted, however. Kramer deciding to stay bottom lane, so Africa on a timer here. They have to make a move topside, otherwise they will lose that turret to the lonesome Ash bot lane. Core JJ's here to answer.
Yeah, coming on up. You see Ambition, okay, he was moving away, now he's coming on up.
Just not in a position there to assist, and a good rotation here from Galio will defend that tier 1 to the bottom lane, and nobody in a position to push on mid lane, and so Africa just get a freebie with an out rotation on Samsung, and a good way of starting to snowball that advantage.
Yeah, really nicely done. Keep in mind that the Rift Herald is still available here, so there's only one tier 1 turret left over. I think they can easily set up a push in just a minute onto the mid turret and try to get some damage done there.
The big issue here is that Kalista is not your siege carry. Unlike Caitlyn in game 1, she's not going to be able to get any shots against the Ashe and the Victor. And so, because there wasn't too much chunk happening to the mid lane, this use of Herald will have to be very calculated for them to secure an objective. If they can get Crown's mana low enough or secure vision elsewhere, but he's a half mana, and it's going to be really tough to use. And now Herald's 3/4 of the way out, so a recall and a use into the mid lane will be in order for Freaks.
Yep, they're essentially going to be forced into using it there. Spirit makes his way. A bunch of pings going down. I think Samsung should know this is coming as well. As you can see, Cuvée making his way towards mid, as well as Ambition.
They're responding. They just scouted both Lee Sin and the duo lane, but there is no minion wave. At least Crown isn't here to defend this turret, so this could actually be the move that the Africa Freaks are looking for, because the biggest wave clear tool isn't available to defend the tower. For some reason, he's assigned to the top lane against Renekton, so he has kill pressure, it seems, so that's why. But I feel like at this point, when your goal is to stall, it's more important to defend the turret, and wow, it actually gets transitioned into a tier 2. So it's trying to get a little bit of a different value out of it.
Didn't seem like Samsung saw this coming, but it is channeled far enough away. Crown, he has no mana. There's the cleanse. In comes Galio. Can they get close enough? There's the stun. And lots committed to up in the top lane, and they don't even get the kill. Meanwhile, it's 3v4 down here in bot lane.
That was a rancid use of Herald. That was so bad. You could have just used it on mid lane. I don't understand that move by them, actually. It was just quite simple to just take down that mid lane turret with the amount of people that they had and the lack of wave clear, but instead they choose to just a worthy sacrifice, I guess, to the tier 2 turret from Samsung, and so they're pretty happy that Herald didn't amount to anything out of this.
Yeah, I mean, they chipped down the bottom tier 2, and if they get Cuvée, this could be pretty nice. The double knock-up, and stun for ages. Down goes Cuvée. Nice little party brush there from Africa, from Kramer and Tushin. Now they're going to begin pushing bot, and again, the Rift Herald, it looked terrible, and it kind of was, but they're able to convert into potentially a tier 2 bottom lane.
Yeah, now they're going to get a tier 2, so I guess their ability to foresee the future phase check is beyond anything that we can identify. So in the end, the Herald comes to a tier 2 for the Africa Freaks. So a little bit of an advantage going their way anyways. And now they're not going to push for this one. The recalls can defend this. It's a bit of an odd turret to commit to this early on. So the rotation to the mid lane might be in order for them, but a recall on Kalista will come out first.
Yeah, so they make it work. We don't really know if that was their intention.
I'm still going to say it sucked. Tier 1 mid lane is worth more than tier 2.
We're going to push in bot lane and do a bit of damage, and then hopefully Cuvée will just begin split pushing there, and we can get the follow-up kill and take out the bottom tier 2. I doubt they were thinking that far in advance, but if they were, props to them. As you said before, taking out the mid-tier 1 would have been nicer, but they do get something out of it.
Well, think of it, it's like a good way to think about the map and your champion's positioning is to draw a line between all the turrets and all your champions. And so when the line gets pushed back, then that's kind of the reign that you have control over. And as champions, you want to be able to push your own champions together as far up as possible. So if you think that maybe you're a little bit out of position, check your position with your other champions. If you are ahead of that line, you're probably out of position. And if you're behind that line, then you should move forward. So it's a good habit to look at the minimap and always think about these things, as it lets you understand just how much pressure not only can your champions put, but you have available on the map based on the turrets that you have taken.
Yeah. Something we see a lot of the time is taking out all the tier 1s, and then, as Samsung did in game 2, you deny all the vision in the red side jungle, and you try to bait the Baron fight. But Afrika's not really going to have that option available to them because the tier 1 is still left up. And unfortunately, Afrika, even with all this map control, they don't get another good Drake. They had a Cloud Drake, so really not going to help them out too much. They have a bit better engage, and they do have a lot of engage in their composition, but definitely would have preferred something like a Mountain Drake to fight against this Victor. Ooh, Crown getting out of position, forced to flash. Definitely not positive.
He at least gets a teleport, and I know we're criticizing Afrika's ability to take down this mid-tier 1, but they are still trying to snowball the game. It's 25 minutes in, and against a comp that Samsung has, the later the game goes, they're gonna be in trouble.
So, Ruler happily farming in mid as finally Marin groups up here. And Crown has been up in top lane for a very long time. This is something we saw in spring. For Crown, he identifies like, hey, Victor, I'm going to be extremely strong late game. I'm going to be chunking targets for a huge amount of their health. So let me farm for about 40 minutes. Just don't touch me. I'll sit top lane. You guys deal with everything else. If we can survive until the late game and I have 400 CS, then I'll carry you. And it seems like that's the idea here for him in this game.
And there's value in putting him top because it's a little harder to dive 2 people into the mid lane than it is to dive a solo Victor. So by putting the dual lane mid, which is usually the common thing that you see after a mid lane or bottom lane turret has been taken, that means that you can stall out any pushes into the mid lane. You can keep funneling farm onto your Victor without having to share it with anybody else. And the defense of the mid-tier 1, as long as your carries and support have wave clear, becomes difficult, and so the composition would be the only determining factor if you can really dive that comp. Which they can, actually. They do have the tools to dive this, but the wave clear means that any dive is just too difficult to deal with because Hurricane and Volley and Glitter Lance mean that you'll never really get the chance to hit that wave onto the turret.
They're just hoping that someone gets out of position. I feel like if Samsung continues playing very defensive and just sits back and lets it happen, just chills and farms for a very long time, I think they're going to be in a really good spot in this game. Ruler is pushing a little bit far forward. There is the flash to avoid the knockup. This is what we were talking about. They're waiting for a mistake. Kalista is going to be stunned up. And finally, Crown coming down here to support right at the right time, actually.
They at least get a flash here from Ruler, so if they want to revisit this lane when their ultimates are back up, they're much more likely to secure an objective. And now that we're reaching that 30-minute mark and we have a Kalista available, Baron is a very real possibility. So really realizing that having to flash early is really important, as a death could mean the disaster for any of these teams.
You can see Afrika, I wouldn't say they're getting desperate, but they're really trying to put on the pressure. They identify that they need to take out this tier 1, and they see that Victor's not there, so they immediately try to get as much damage as possible. Spirit eating a lot of damage in the meantime from Ruler, trying to fight back. He's looking for a play here, potentially. Nice wards.
Everybody from Samsung is reacting, though. They understand that this could be what Afrika is looking for. Good and clear on the vision there, making sure that Spirit can't find the angle, and as long as they stay grouped up and they're not surprised by any flank, it'll be much easier to deal with these fights as they continue to scale. You already have the Void Staff and completed item on Victor. The completed, oh, what's the name of the item?
The Void Staff?
No, his own item, the one that he gets that nobody else has.
I'm not sure, to be
core
honest.
Power, his core thing.
Yeah.
Damn it.
I'm not a Victor player myself.
I'm just embarrassed of myself every time that happens. It happens.
I can
tell it to you in Korean.
Yeah, that's the problem. We play in the Korean solo queue and everything's in Korean. So well, either way, does finish that up. And man, 3 kills at 30 minutes, 1 kill per 10 minutes. This definitely feels like a Samsung slash
feels like a
Spring Jin-Air game.
Yeah, Samsung meets Jin-Air.
Yeah, or that 68-minute BBQ versus Jin-Air game we had last split.
My God.
Nothing happened until like 55 minutes, and then things just exploded. Finally.
Oh, just endless foreplay. Enough. Enough. I'm all ready to go.
Yeah. Eventually, it just gets to be too much. And, I mean, this is what it looks like. They just keep pushing down mid. They can't take this tier 1. And again, we go back to that Rift Herald. What if they just had that mid-tier 1 taken away from about 10 minutes ago?
Would be a lot easier to control this red side jungle if mid-tier 1 was down. That's what they're trying to do. They say, all right, you know what, mid-tier 1 is going to be way too tough. Let's try to control the Baron side and see what we can accomplish this time. But because the turret is down, Samsung is just in such a good position to respond to any of this. They're so close to Baron that realistically anything's not going to work. But they're going to try to just two-man it with Kalista, but this attempt's not going to fool Samsung here. He gets scouted out, and Ambition might be in trouble, but the Q does miss. So he's perfectly fine.
Yeah, they do get the flash out of him, which means that it'll make it a lot harder for him to go in for a steal and flash away to safety or get the insta-flash in. Meanwhile, Cuvée doing a nice job pushing into bot, forcing out the teleport from Marin. Cuvée still has his, of course, Kuro still with the double teleport that they are running. They do have that available. And finally, it seems like they get an opportunity to take out this tier 1 turret.
Exactly. They move Samsung around the red side jungle just long enough to get the first instance into the mid lane. They crash the wave, and because Victor is also not there to clear the wave before it crashes, they can secure the turret easily. And now they'll get a blue buff steal and probably a dragon here. And what is Samsung going to answer with? We saw them last time around try to go for that crazy desperation Baron, but they're nowhere near in that position this time around. So instead, just a tier 1 trade going over for Crown, and he's getting really strong now, level 17, and a late game Victor is nothing to scoff at.
This is what we were talking about. He has bought himself, or Samsung rather, has bought Crown a ton of time to just farm up. He's sitting at the most CS in the game. He's 0-0-0, but still very, very fed at this point.
And the interesting thing about these fights is now that for Africa to win these fights, it's going to be on almost exclusively the way that they play. Their champions aren't really the strongest anymore, whereas for Samsung, they have champions on their advantage, so they have to play the fights more defensively. Staying alive is going to be more valuable for them than just bursting out anybody from the Freak so far. And when you see these two different clashes of styles, it really makes for quite interesting fights that we have just been denied for so long in this 30-minute. Do we want a 30-minute siesta? It's a siesta. That's what we'll say.
Oh boy, that's actually really good. The siesta. It's yeah, it's pretty much been that. Just sitting back. We do have the Elder Drake spawning eventually, so that'll make some plays over there, hopefully.
Unless it gets traded for Baron, and then.
Come on, don't take my hope away from me, Crumbs.
All right. Hope's all we've got, man. Hope is always necessary.
Yeah. We're getting to almost 1 kill per 11 minutes.
Let's not bring that stat up again.
Hey, Kalista actually.
Like, it would be super exciting if at least objectives were being traded, but it's 5 turrets being taken, so that's pretty much a tower every 6 minutes as well. So it's also quite slow in that regard. Snail pace. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. You know the term glacier slow, right? You've heard that before?
Yeah.
That term is going to become less and less relevant. As glaciers continue to melt,
glaciers,
they'll be faster and faster, so no longer will we have glacier slow. We'll have to move to tectonic plate slow.
Yeah, well, you guys know the term thanks Obama. Well, that'll quickly turn into thanks Trump.
Hey, let's not get political here, man. We're in a different country.
That's true. We're out here on our own island.
We have solace.
Everybody is affected by the glaciers. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Are we going to have some action here?
Turret. Oh!
Kuro's trying to stop it. It's not going to happen. And actually, with the on-hit cannon, it can get very obnoxious.
That really didn't seem too obnoxious.
Well, mostly it was just the shield that was ready, but he's going to easily regen. I mean, he has Warmogs at this point.
He's got his Gargoyle Stone Plate completed.
Warden's Mail. I mean, he's just not taking damage. Okay, they're looking potentially for an engage. Oh, I got too excited.
Our expectations must be lowered in order to keep the excitement.
They're just playing with our heart now. Hawkshot comes out. No Baron is happening. Don't worry, Samsung.
Kennen has group, so at least we have a 5-on-5 stare down, but Crown will return to the top side looking for more farm. And once he completes that Death Cap and the Infinity Edge comes out from Ruler, then that's when they can really just start bringing the hurt to Africa Freak. But in the meantime, they're feeling feisty, looking for a Baron rush, but a steal would not be in order for Samsung. They definitely would have to fight this. Not looking to take that timing on the Baron or a Death Cap or an IE.
There's the stun on Kuro.
The TP, though.
Yeah, of course he has no damage. In comes Marin. He's going to land the stun onto Ambition. There's the knockup. Again, Gragas is very tanky, but in goes, looks like Tushin, actually. He gets away alive, but Victor going to be able to burst down Spirit and make him totally unavailable in that fight. Another kill going over to Ambition. Kuro, all by his lonesome, will eventually be taken out. Marin trying his damnedest to take out Ambition, but they just cannot. The stun is going to be followed up there. Nicely done, Samsung. With a great response, they take out 3.
Just all too easy there at this point. The composition just so hard for them to run straight in the line, and Marin doesn't get the flank. They commit to try to go into the Gragas, and the only saving grace could have possibly been if Spirit kicked Crown into the team, and they somehow killed him right away. But that insect kick was completely botched. He actually flashed forward and kicked Crown even deeper into the safety of the jungle. So no chance for Africa to take the fight, and now Samsung just in complete control of this game, and no more hope for Africa as there's no TP. And take another look right here.
Yeah.
Look at Spirit. Hits the Q onto Marin, but oh, he sees Crown. Oh.
That's gotta hurt. And he puts himself in so much danger to just get 1v1 versus Crown. That's just the beginning of the end of this fight.
Kalista wasn't even there. Like, you can't go that deep when you have an AD carry that relies on people diving to you. And just the lack of snowball that happened from Africa means that all Samsung have to do is keep staying together, and the fights just become impossible for the Freaks to win.
I feel bad for the Africa fans because this might be the second time that they get so close to taking out a huge team. First it was KT, then it was Samsung, and now it's just turning into a bit of a meme. It's like they take the first game, and it's almost a perfect game.
Yeah.
Against KT, it was a perfect game.
I told you not to get too excited. It could have happened again, and it's happening once again.
It's definitely disappointing.
And now Death Cap and Infinity Edge are completed, so it's going to be even tougher. The split push, nobody can deal with Kennen. He's got Phantom Dancer completed, so you can forget about Renekton or Galio dealing with that, and just have to stay together, and it just becomes all too easy here. Galio will try to answer, so at least he does have some wave clear, but against a Baroned up minion, most likely not.
We're taking a look at Cuvée. He's on 4 items now. His split push is going to be really annoying to deal with. You could see that Galio has a...
They're trying to gank him.
Yeah, they're trying to get in here. They do land the stun during the lightning rush, but...
They don't even have damage. They don't have the ability to take them down. With PD, Lifesteal, and the Ninja Tabais, this comp just only has Kalista as damage, so just too much commitment to the late game. And I gotta say, I think the really smart thing from Samsung here was that Caitlyn ban.
Yeah, came down to that. Here's the teleport in. They're going to collide hardcore onto Crown. He will be taken out, and Cuvée commits to the teleport into 3 members. Able to get a double kill here onto Kramer's Kalista as Africa. They find a hole in the armor.
Crown getting too carried away with what he's been doing so far, just last hitting nonstop. And this is actually a huge move for the Freaks, because now that's an Elder Dragon that's up. 2 carries are down, and that's 4 dragons on their way. That means that this is going to be a super strong Elder Dragon, and if they can use this right, the game could have just slipped away from Samsung's hand just from an over-greediness for some more minion wave. Like, that's not worth it. That tier 2 wasn't worth it. They had to stay together, and now Africa back in the driver's seat. This is all they need for damage. When you have extreme true damage burn, it doesn't matter if your composition doesn't have carries. Everybody becomes a carry now.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw this a bunch of times in spring. It's definitely one of Crown's biggest weaknesses. It seems like he hasn't really gotten over it. And as you said, perhaps we counter-jinxed it here. Maybe Afrika actually will take the game off of that mistake.
Well, that's already 1/4 onto this Elder Dragon, and there is still a lot of wave clear on Samsung, so they would have to go for a crazy dive. That really seems to be the only way.
They have the tools.
They have the tools to do so. They need to be grouped up, but
I think they just got to go for it, you know?
It's really tough, though. Like, they can't escort the minion wave to crash onto a turret, and so when you're dealing with a dive without minion waves, it just becomes so tough to pull off, and something that you rarely practice, and a move that is almost never necessary to do into a game. And because there are no objectives to fight for anymore, Samsung can just be very content in waiting this one out.
Yeah, and you can see that's exactly what's happening. Afrika, it seems like just getting the 2 kills and the Elder Drake just gets them back into the game. And again, we talked about it at the beginning of the game, Samsung's composition is fantastic for the late game. And so even though it was a bit of a mistake, I feel like Samsung's position is still pretty decent.
Yeah, Samsung is perfectly fine here. They're just going to go deeper into the late game where it does benefit the carries, but they still have to beware Kalista. If she's capable of dealing damage into a fight
4-0
while not getting bopped, she can carry these team fights, right? Kalista does have a lot of AoE damage, but as long as she avoids the damage from Victor and Ashe, she should be in a fine position. Remember that the fight that the Freaks lost to was out of a poor engage, as well as Kalista not being there to follow up. So now they're thinking about the dive perhaps, but there's just no chances to escort this minion wave.
They're going to try. They've got half of it left. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
It's so hard to push into this comp.
Especially at this stage in the game. 40 minutes in, even though the gold is even, you know that Samsung feel comfortable taking this fight. They just have to wait out the Elder, which is almost already out, actually, so not a big deal.
So it looks like this game is going to go a bit later than we expected. I mean, we're already sitting here at 40 minutes. This is definitely one of the longer games we've cast so far in summer.
Well, we have had 11 of them so far, 11 matches, so lots of games that go for, but lots of stomps as well. Lots of very one-sided matches, and as teams figure out the patch, it becomes Ambition. Not again!
Is it going to be Ambition?
Oh, he dodges.
Boy. That wasn't really a dodge. I think that was a miss by Tushin, as he was expecting Ambition to go a little bit far forward. But the flash is used.
Half glass full there.
Yeah. Ambition, you know, he got caught early on in the game, in game 2.
Really looking for those Pokemon out there in those brushes. Otherwise, I don't see why he would be looking to go into so many brushes head on.
And he's got to go into the tall grass.
But this could be the fight that Afrika wants, so Crown isn't here. He's
okay, he's
coming in from red side.
Kuro's going to be stunned down, though, so they do disable him for quite a while. And the cask will not land.
The TP from Renekton, though.
Coming on in from behind, and there's the heroic entrance, going to knock up 3, but there's no follow-up. They're chasing Cuvée on the left side, but they can't get him down. Kuro, oh, misses the redemption. Now trying to go on deep, but Crown and Ruler in the back have so much protection. They're chipping away, and finally they take out that big Renekton tank. That's going to be one tank going down. There's the second. Kuro looks to get away with his life, but
such a disjointed fight. Kramer just dancing around on the outskirts. Do I go left? Do I go right? None is the right answer, and as such, that he will not contribute anything to the fight because of the poor engage going in. The tank's just soaking so much damage without any follow-up. But Samsung just gets a freebie here, capable of taking down this mid inhibitor, and they're going to try to push for the game. There is not enough wave clear here, it seems.
Well, I think this might just be it. They're going to be pushing in onto this turret, and the barrel is going to go in. Kramer's the only hope. He gets knocked back. Nice cleanse flash. He's still alive, but can he actually 1v5 essentially? That's the question. Ruler, he's taking a bit of damage from the turret. Kramer going to go 1v1. Can he actually do it? The answer is no. Not with that support, and oh boy. Cuvée is going to take out Spirit there. Perhaps their last hope is Samsung. They're pushing on in. Tushin makes it back. Oh, man, he is just going to be going down. Maru trying to re-engage here. There's the teleport. All they got to do is attack that Nexus. Trying their hardest. It's not going to happen. There's the win going over to Samsung in a very long 2-1 victory.
Oh, a game that Africa, they knew what the game plan was, but they just did not execute. Too passive in the early game results in not enough advantages. A really poor use of the Herald that you have to wonder, what could have happened if they took down that mid turret early on? Could they have perhaps burst down a Baron early on and snowballed the game at a 20-minute mark? Well, we'll never really find out, and as such, Samsung gets to stall out, get their composition to the point where they want to, and secure themselves an easy late game win with a superior late game draft.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you highlight the Rift Herald once again, because what could have happened? I mean, Marin up in the top lane on that Renekton, he wasn't getting super fed like he did in game 1, but he was doing all right. He was keeping up. They did have an opportunity in the mid game, but they just couldn't make it happen. And Samsung held on for long enough. A very standard, turbulent, sorry to use that word, but turbulent Samsung game. It's very, it's Samsung 100% of the way. And that's what we like to see out of them. They get the win at the end of it all.
I love their game 1. This is such a great read there from Cuvée. Like, this could have also been a game-winning play. This was potentially just snowballing move from the Freaks that Cuvée reads, and just really good stuff from Samsung overall. They had a lot of good moments, and this was another great. Like, this series, while it was slow, it had a lot of plays where teams were just reading what each other were doing, and after a while, you have to wonder if that played into the confidence of the future moves that were made, where one tries to make a move, it gets read, the other one does the same, it gets matched immediately, and so that does something to your confidence, where it's like, maybe if I do something, do they see it coming right away? The psychological element in League of Legends is nothing to be undervalued.
Yeah. Nice play there by Afrika trying to make that bottom Rift Herald work. They do get the bottom tier 2, but here we go again. This failed kick from Spirit, and
the Kalista ultimate missed as well.
Yeah, just a very disjointed fight again.
Look at Kalista. Like, what can she really provide in this fight? She can't get close to Victor. She's slowed. She's every champion outranges her in terms of at least an ability, and so the pick.
Caitlyn would have been perfect. In this comp, man. I
mean, maybe you go with the likes of a late hyper carry. They're not the craziest right now. Only a couple of people can really play them out, but well, a decent attempt at closing out.
That was a nice try. You could see the very low damage numbers on the side of Afrika. They really couldn't get much going, even though it was a very long game where they were in the lead for most of it. And the Ashe damage, as no one could even touch Ruler, had so much room in the back. Cuvée did a nice job split pushing as well.
And Ashe was kind of undermined here, as she was capable of really melting so many of the tanks, just unable to be 1v1 by the Kalista with the Ninja Tabis as her build, with Lulu in the backup. Just so much power out of this pick that you have to wonder why the Kalista was locked in and not another attempt. And maybe the champion pool of Kramer has to come into question here. If Ashe and Caitlyn go down, is really Kalista the third tier, one? Even though the Thresh is banned?
Well, you were mentioning something like a hyper carry, Twitch or Cog. It would have been hard to really. He had a lot of protection, but either way, it's really just speculation at this point. We are going to be jumping straight into the MVP interview, so let's go to that.
Yeah, this is the MVP interview for Cuvée. And so at first he was kind of worried they might lose the game, but all the teammates were sure that they can win the late game, so they just trying to cheer up. And you said you like chicken, like your favorite food is chicken, so do you like your new nickname, the God of Chicken? So he said he likes eating a lot, so any nicknames are fine. And who do you think will be the last MVP for the set 3? So he said every players were good, but maybe it can be Crown, or we can check it out on the screen.
Well, the MVP of the last game was Crown, so just to throw that up there, sitting at 4-1-2, he still had 75% kill contribution, and he picks up his 4th MVP.
This guy is just MVP material all over. 3 Victor games in a row, and that already, the fact that he can play Victor and see success with him is already enough to say that is a player of a different caliber than most, and as such, plays the team fights out just so well. Even when the situation in game 1 where he traded and was seemingly going to die, he just died. But we'll go back to the interview and joined by Crown once
So
again.
this is the MVP for the last set, Crown. So he said he's not really sure why he's the MVP for the last set, but all the 10 players might think the ruler will be the last set MVP. So what was the play of the game for today? He said the pick and bands was good, and also just in-game went very fluently, so that made us play really well. So Crown is at the first place of the MVP points with 400 MVP points. Well, until the last game, yeah, he thought he deserved the MVP, but for today's match, he's not really sure. He thinks he was kind of lucky. And Cuvette thinks, well, he protected the mid tower quite well, so that's how we got the MVP points. Well, your performance was amazing, so upcoming matches won't be quite worrying, so what do you think about it? Well, but he kind of wants to make a 2-0 game, so they will try harder. And it was rainy today, but a lot of fans came here to cheer you, so last message for your fans. Thank you for coming in this gloomy weather, and we always thank you for your love and support. He's still not sure why he's here for the MVP interview, but he's really thank you for all the fans, and he always appreciates all the love and support.
So there you do have it, the interview with Cuvette and Crown. Crown, I said it on Twitter, I'm like, is this guy going to get another MVP? He was the highest MVP for spring. He had the most points, and he's well on his way once again.
And the cool thing about MVP and trying to fight for MVP is that being MVP here in the LCK means at the end of the split, you get a nice fat stack of moolah for being at the top of the table. And so Samsung and himself will be top of the table 3-0 now, +4 on themselves. And Longzhu and SK Telecom, I'd say, are the teams that you'd be hot on their tails, and those two will be playing tomorrow in a really exciting match.
Yeah, definitely go ahead and check that out tomorrow. We do have another match coming up after the one we just had. It was a bit of a longer one, but we will be jumping into Rocks versus KT after about a half-hour break, guys. So make sure you're staying around for that. And yeah, Samsung, it was a bit of a close one, especially after getting rocked by Afrika in game 1.